that government has never been bigger, never more bloated, and never, unfortunately, more useless. With all its resources and bureaucrats coming out of its ears, it can't solve the aged care crisis. It can't solve the curse of homelessness. It can't seem to answer the question, why can't young people afford a home? It certainly doesn't even try to answer the crisis in our classrooms. But we've just come through a period where the nation every night viewed the awful consequences of the floods in southeast Queensland, central and northern New South Wales and Western Sydney. This followed on from the horrific pictures of the bushfire crisis in 2019-20. The nation knew the damage and the trauma, the loss and the demoralisation caused by these crises. Where has government been? Indeed, has it ever been more impotent? There is a New South Wales parliamentary inquiry into the floods in New South Wales. We learnt yesterday, on the first day of the inquiry, this is June tomorrow, that residents in Corrakai, not far from Lismore, 3 months on, are still living in tents on footpaths. These are First Nations people, still without a home, after a flood in early March. Tomorrow's June, the first day of winter, and people are living in tents on footpaths. Temporary accommodation has been offered miles away on the Gold Coast, which would involve splitting up communities, adding one crisis to another. The Northern Rivers region of New South Wales is crippled. Evidence was given to the inquiry that there was no coordinated effort from government on the ground for the first 7 days. And one witness said, and I quote, "Then the former federal government decided to turn up and it was a marketing opportunity," unquote. The Mayor of Ballina said council staff were forced to travel over the border into Queensland to access internet and phone connection. Well, the New South Wales government seems to be doing its best in providing a $350 million housing response to assist 25,000 households. But that averages out at about 14,000 a household. Just think, everything you own's been destroyed, as in the bushfires and now in the floods. Children without all their books, all their toys, even their school. Farmers have lost all their stock and their fencing and their infrastructure. Businesses have lost everything. Where does 14,000 take you? People often say we've got money for everybody and everything, but not for our own people. When the tsunami struck Indonesia in 2004, the then Prime Minister Howard immediately announced a $1 billion contribution to a newly formed Australia-Indonesia Partnership for Reconstruction and Development. We don't seem to have any partnership for the reconstruction and development of the flood and bushfire-ravaged Australia. 500 million of the 1 billion way back then was interest-free loans, quote, "for the reconstruction and rehabilitation of major infrastructure," unquote. Do these poor buggers who are victims of bushfire and flood get interest-free loans for the reconstruction and rehabilitation of major infrastructure? Who helps the small businessman restock his business or the farmer restock his farm?